What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Some news has come out about TJ Watt and where things stand with him and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I've got some insight on whether or not the issue is as large and maybe as concerning as some believe it is. Meanwhile, some Aaron Rodgers news. Some plans have emerged of the 41-year-old quarterback and what he is going to do over the summer before the Pittsburgh Steelers hit Latrobe and begin training camp. And we got a fun little Thursday here for everybody in AST Nation. Jacob, it was a beautiful day in the Berg all day. About an hour ago, it decided that it was just ready to take a little rain, just a little bit. Downpour for about 4 seconds. We're good to go now. It's looking quite lovely out once again. And I'll tell you this, every day that passes, the meme that I mentioned yesterday of Forrest Gump, and one day it started raining and it didn't stop raining for 4 months. That is what I believe we are in, but it's all right. One day at a time. The electrical company left your house. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm good. Listen, this is all a joke for legal purposes. But if I were to say that I hate Duquesne Light Company or really any electric company, it's all a joke. I'm not serious, but hypothetically, they have been ruining my week. So I'm fine. But no, I'm all good. Happy to be here. Seems like we got some good weather going in, maybe, or we just got some more Pittsburgh rain. But either way, happy to be chatting Steelers with you, buddy.
We're allowed. We're not sponsored by Duquesne Light, and there are certain companies, okay, that I don't think I ever would say okay to. They might be on that list. They might be on. Some people have told me one time. Somebody told me, you're getting big enough where you got to stop talking crap on companies. And I said, until FedEx delivers a package on time, they will never, ever come out of my mouth in a positive manner. Ever, ever, ever. Duquesne Light, pretty much up there. Okay. Pretty much up there. From the guy who went and stood in line at Lowe's to get a generator only for the electric to come back on later that night. Duquesne Light and me are not buddies. So you're fine. You're fine. I drove past your house. I walked past your house earlier this morning when I was snagging a coffee, and all I thought was like, yeah, I probably would have killed somebody if I lived in that house. That's probably what happened. So I'm good. You're good. I'm glad you're good.
Thank you. Yeah. You can check out my other podcast. It's called Duquesne Light Company. I'm taking you down. And you can hear more about that. Hear my diatribes about
it's a vlog.
Companies. Yeah,
online. I love it. All right, let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. TJ Watt is the guy that everybody's freaking out about right now. Everybody has their eyes glued to the drama, the lack of information, the lack of an extension, and what's going to happen between the Pittsburgh Steelers and their star edge rusher. Everybody kind of expects TJ Watt to end up in Pittsburgh, but we're worried. And in the meantime, everybody's going to talk about it. Well, James Palmer, of Bleacher Report believes that maybe this is what's wrong between the Pittsburgh Steelers and TJ Watt. And it's not money from TJ's side. This is what he said on Bleacher Report the other day. Quote, "The issue with this is a big swing with Aaron Rodgers. They know how important the defense is going to be. They know they need TJ, and a deal is likely going to get done. But the Steelers' argument is that that Watt and the defense kind of fell off a little bit the back end of last year. He continued later with, he had some injuries. He's battled through them. He's going to be 31 years old. Do you give $100 million guaranteed to somebody like that? I think that's where the battle's going to happen, but I think a deal is going to end up happening. I'll tell you this, okay? When it comes to TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe what I'm hearing is kind of persuading me from, or blinding me, I guess, from the outside perspective and the worry, but I don't really have any. When it comes to me and where I stand with TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have been told time and time again that the Pittsburgh Steelers and TJ Watt are totally fine, and things are going to be totally fine. they had a hiccup. You want to know what the deuces was for? The deuces was the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers traded and signed DK Metcalf for $1 billion and then said to TJ Watt, let's negotiate and see if we can pull you down a little bit. TJ said, what does that even mean? You just traded for a wide receiver, paid him an historic amount of money, and the guy that's been here his entire career, who has given you everything, who has been the key and the biggest reason for your success, is the guy that you're going to try to lowball in this situation. Doesn't feel really good about it. I don't think the Steelers in last year and what happened are worried. I just think that right now the Steelers are being the Steelers and simply taking this as slow as they can, because if they rush through it, they're going to pay him a boatload of money, and they don't want to do that because they're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do I think they do pay him a boatload of money? Yeah. Do I think he gets right around that Myles Garrett number? Yeah. Do I think that a deal gets done? Yeah. Is there any part of me that thinks otherwise? No. But the end of last season, it does stand out. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are nervous. Do you think I'm wrong here in assuming that just because I haven't heard it doesn't mean it's not true, that maybe the Steelers are a little bit cautious about how things ended in 2024?
I think the consideration is a worthy one. I think you have to have the conversation of how effective is any player going to be over the length of a long-term deal like they're discussing with TJ. The particular, last few weeks of the season, not recording a sack, the lower sack numbers, I'm very much on the fence of, was it just TJ's, going through a bad stretch, playing through a nagging injury? Was it TJ just being ineffective? Or was it more so that the defense as a whole was ineffective and everyone else sort of suffered the consequences? I remain on the fence as to what the answer is there, but I think every day that this drags out, even though we are still in the off season, there is just a slight percentage, a very small increase of worry kind of blossoming and growing, at least from this outside perspective. Because again, we continue to hear that everything is going well. Both sides want to get a deal done, but something's holding it up. And I guess my biggest question to you, and help me connect these dots, is what was the difference with committing a historic amount of money to DK Metcalf right after acquiring him, and the hesitancy of giving it to TJ Watt a couple months later? Like, I can see why that feels, kind of off, and like there's something up with it more so than it's just negotiation. So help me figure that out.
When it came to DK, it was in my opinion, it was a straight overreaction. That's what the Steelers did. I think one of two things. So I reported in January that the Steelers were ready to move on from George Pickens. Everybody called me crazy, but the real ones knew what was up, and that chances were it was going to come. And eventually the Steelers moved on from him, but they knew that. They had it in their back of their minds the whole time that eventually something was going to happen. When it comes to the DK trade and what's going on there, I think that the Steelers knew they needed a star wide receiver. They weren't willing to risk it. They needed to make a move before they traded George Pickens away. And when it comes to having a star wide receiver, DK is the guy that's on the market now that we could go get right now. So we have to go do it. But he doesn't come without a price tag, massive one. And they didn't want any issues. They didn't want this to turn into a thing. They're looking to get rid of the drama. That was the reason they moved on from George. And they just said, screw it, we'll pay him. Which in 2 or 3 years, when DK is 30, 31 years old, $28 million is not going to be a lot for a wide receiver. Like, it's going to be middle tier money. Guys who are 30 years old are going to be making $30 million a year. Like, that's just what's going to happen, because nobody's going to be making $10 million anymore. The lower end guys are going to be making 20. And I think the Steelers a little bit overreacted there without thinking that it was going to impact TJ and affect the people around the organization already, that this already happened. And I think that's where the divide kind of came in, is when it happened, the Steelers were just so hung up on making sure they had their plan in place at wide receiver that they did not realize the cause and effect of what was going to happen with the guy that they needed to negotiate with. And I don't think the Steelers want to lowball TJ. They'd like to get a deal done. They're optimistic that they're going to, but I also think that they have to be realistic about the situation. And realistically, he's 31 years old, and you have to be 100% sure and certain that it's going to work out in your favor before you go and sign somebody. You know, you can't just say, nah, TJ, here's $100 million in 2 years. You might suck. So I think you got to do a lot of that. You got to have a lot of internal conversations, less of that with DK. But the cause and effect was it looks really bad publicly and within the locker room that you went with DK before TJ. That's my thoughts on the divide.
Yeah, I mean, optics certainly don't help the situation at all, and obviously optics don't determine how a contract negotiation goes. But it feels curious that there's like such a disconnect still, and I think part of it is the off season sort of breeds this like what's the right word? Drama seems a little bit too dramatic. But it's the off season, and since there's no other training camp going on, there's nothing else happening with TJ for us to sort of see if there's anything going on in the day to day. So it's just kind of this weird waiting game, and I at least from my perspective, the patience has run out. I want to either know if a deal's getting done or if something's kind of like shit or get off the pot sort of thing.
When is your deadline? When you look at it, what is in your eyes? When are you like, okay, a deal, this is the end of the line for me, deal needs to be done by then?
Strictly from what I would like to see, I think a deal needs to be in place before week 1 of the regular season. I think from an organizational standpoint, they would like to have it done, and I would guess that their deadline would be, sometime right after St. Vincent opens up.
Yeah, I mean, the worst case scenario, it's week 1 of the NFL season, and they're just very okay with that. But yeah, it's right around when training camp is going to open. That's when they'd like to get it done. Will it happen? Again, I don't know when it's going to happen. I do anticipate that they have some negotiations throughout the summer, but I look at it the same way I've been looking at it, as in they're going to slowball this thing. They're going to take this as long as they need to, because they're not going to be willing to just hand out a boatload of astronomical money to TJ Watt. They're going to make him play the hard game, which it's going to work, but I don't know. It's going to be slow. All right. The other news that came out today, Aaron Rodgers, according to Mike DeFabo and according to some sources, is set to meet with Arthur Smith throughout the summer. He also has plans to meet with Pat Freiermuth, DK Metcalf out in Malibu, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, I would imagine, are there as well. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that I think character-wise brings just as many concerns as anything else. You hear this, him and Arthur Smith are going to meet. They're going to continue to develop the offense. The big question in my eyes is, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and the concerns of he didn't show up to OTAs, and I was asked this yesterday on a radio show, like, he didn't show up to OTAs. Do you think he needed to? Probably not. How much does this eliminate any worry that you had in that, if it does at all, that Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith and the offense aren't going to be built and capable and 100% together by week 1 of the NFL season?
I have no worries at all. I don't think that having this meeting or having meetings or whatever the plan is exactly is necessary to fully like ingratiate Aaron Rodgers into the offensive plan that Arthur Smith has. I think training camp is enough time for a 20-year NFL vet to sort of get the gist of everything and to, build a rapport. I like, if they just are hitting it off and they want to, a connection's there, great. Why not have your teammates and your coaches bonded as best as they possibly can be and have a tight unit within the locker room? But I mean, I don't think it makes a difference one way or the other, or will have an impact on what Rodgers does when the season actually starts.
Yeah, I looked at it right from the jump, and to be honest with you, said anybody who's sitting around going 6 days of helmets and shorts is going to stop the development of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. You need to go hang out at OTAs for a weekend, because you'll realize real quick that it is pretty dumb. That it means nothing. It is a lot of not even throwing the football, just kind of like looking this way and looking that way. A lot of individual stuff. It's not what a 41-year-old veteran needs to be at all. And DK wasn't there. Darius Slay wasn't there. I don't think Aaron Rodgers needed to be. I'll say that Aaron is winning me, at least, and I hope others over as well, as a guy who is very all in on this, though. Like, we talked about it the other day. I believe it was Brian Bacco, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, that said one worry he has that creeps in is, will Aaron just mail it in this season? The answer to that's probably no. I don't know for certain. I've still never even, shook the guy's hand and said, Aaron, great to meet you. Name's Noah Strackbine. Like, we're not even there yet, but it is definitely in my eyes a guy who seems to be as all in as he says. Maybe I'm overreading things. But I think it's exciting to hear and to talk about Aaron meeting guys and figuring this out on his off time. I mean, he wants to win, that was the concern coming into this. Is it Aaron Rodgers and team, or is it team? And Aaron Rodgers seems to be just a team guy. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, it's certainly, I mean, he seems like he's a good locker room guy. There's been no weird reports or any sort of scuffles or any sort of just weird things happening since, in the couple of days that they were together. Do you think that I didn't see all of Bacco's, like, I either didn't hear all of what he said or I didn't read all of what he wrote on the situation. Do you think it's like, the only part of it that strikes me as still kind of weird is like referring to this year as being good for the soul? Like, I understand sort of like this whole like personal journey that we are not privy to, that Aaron Rodgers has been going through in the offseason, and how that sort of swayed and affected how long it took him to make a decision. But I think it might be fair to call into question of, if someone's voicing that I'm doing this just to like satisfy this thing right in here, this guy. That it might be a fair question to ask, like, well, is that the most competitive? We're talking about like Kobe and LeBron yesterday. I don't think Kobe ever said once in his life, like, what I'm going out there to do? Just to play for my heart, just to play for that thing, just the old ticker. Never happened. So I think it's a fair question to ask. I don't necessarily agree or buy into it, but I think it is a fair perspective to have on the situation.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And I look at it again, like when he said, oh, I just want to play for fun. Like, these are things that I'm like, dude, you're 41 years old, man. Like, say that you want to win another title, you know what I mean? Or give somebody something to get. But I think I really do. I think Aaron's a guy that we can't look too deep into, because if we do, it's usually wrong. You just don't totally understand who Aaron Rodgers is. We'll see what happens. All right. I want to finish this off. It's a bit of a down, boring week, and I'm going to be really honest with you. With that said, we got to come up with cool things to talk about, fun things to talk about. This week, we did a little overreaction Tuesday. We did a little what's more likely Wednesday. Thursday, we're doing some power rankings, and I got a good one for you. I'm doing the 5 most impactful moves the Pittsburgh Steelers have made this offseason as of this point. And no, TJ Watt is unfortunately not on there. But I got a good 5 for you. I think I got a good 5 for you. We'll start from the bottom. I think people could probably guess some of these, but I'm going to be honest with you. I feel really good about my list, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it. We'll start with number 5. It wasn't the first pick in the draft. It wasn't the second round pick in the draft, but it was their second pick in the NFL draft. Caleb Johnson is a guy that is going to be so overlooked in this offense right up until week 1, when he starts kicking ass on the field. That is the moment everyone will realize for certain Caleb Johnson is a significant difference maker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Him and Jaylen Warren are what Arthur Smith has been looking for. Getting rid of Najee Harris needed to happen. The Pittsburgh Steelers needed somebody who works well with the offensive coordinator that they have here, who wants to run a certain style of running offense, who's had some serious success running that certain style of running offense, and is going to be able to utilize his playbook. That's Caleb Johnson. In my eyes, Caleb Johnson is the biggest addition to Arthur Smith. That is who Caleb Johnson is. He's a guy that has vision to run the zone. He can do things like pitch plays that Najee Harris could never. And him and Jaylen Warren, are 2 guys who, if they have a year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are much more dangerous than anybody wants to give them credit for. And I think that it's a possibility that they have a year. Caleb Johnson is massive to the growth and the now of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. Number 4 is the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, or the number 1 pick in the Pittsburgh Steelers NFL draft. But it's not just getting Derek Harmon, it's replacing Larry Ogunjobi. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had a clear vice on the defensive line over the last couple of seasons. It has been we can't replace Stephon Tuitt. We got Larry O. We kind of tied our ship to it, and we're just going to let it sink until the contract's up. Well, they moved on from him. It was a great idea. It was the move that needed to happen 2 years ago. It didn't until this year. They now get Derek Harmon, who looks like the next Cam Hayward. If he's half of that, he's an upgrade to what they're looking for. The Steelers, you want to talk where the Steelers needed to grow the most this offseason? It wasn't offensively. It wasn't quarterback. It wasn't wide receiver. It wasn't running back. It was none of the above. It was the run defense. What was going to happen when Tyrone Tracy runs for 200 yards on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Nothing good. Nothing good. When Derrick Henry is running for 200, it's almost expected. But when the nobodies in Indianapolis are making you look like fools in the ground game, there's cause for concern. The Steelers needed to fix it. I believe they did. I got a lot of hope for Derek Harmon, but I got more hope in just taking the initiative to replace Larry Ogunjobi. Number 3 is a guy who, man, keeping this dude around just tells you that they're here to keep the Steelers. And if you're worried about TJ Watt, look at what the Steelers did to this guy. Deshaun Elliott earning a 2-year contract extension not only solidifies that there's no need to worry about if Deshaun Elliott's too good to get himself out of Pittsburgh. We no longer have to talk about if Deshaun Elliott's going to be around long-term, because he should be, and he is. Last season, when they ended the year, he was possibly the best player on that defense. That's who you keep around. You make him satisfied. You make him happy. You make him hungry, because he's got to go earn the rest of this contract. Deshaun Elliott getting extended, number 3 in my eyes. Number 2, look, getting rid of George Pickens was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. There's no questions to it that it was going to happen. The Pittsburgh Steelers knew they wanted to clean house of all the drama, all the issues, all the character concerns. They've been doing it over the years. George Pickens was the biggest and the final piece. They knew from the jump it was going to happen. Replacing him was massive. And while I think they jumped the gun, while I think they overreacted a little bit, I could not sit here and say anything less than DK Metcalf is a star. And they went out and they got a star at wide receiver. I think trading George Pickens and acquiring DK Metcalf boosted your wide receiver room, gave you an opportunity to be better just at bare minimum, and open the gates to where if you add another piece, this wide receiver room is significantly better than a year ago. Yes, I think that DK is significantly better than George Pickens where we sit here today. I mean, having that guy here does a lot of good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And number 1, I mean, I think this is the easiest one that you could guess of the whole group. I just don't know how signing a 4-time MVP, even if he is 41 years old, is a bad move. You know, when your options were Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston was a name we talked about at some points, Derek Carr, the Steelers had their radar on, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, even Justin Fields. You look at it and you just go, the Steelers gave themselves an opportunity, and in a crowd where there wasn't much opportunity. I love the Aaron Rodgers move for what it came out to be. Do I think it came with a lot of nonsense? Yeah. Do I think it came out with a lot of distractions? A ton of them. Now that he's here, he's winning me over. I feel pretty good about it. Aaron Rodgers is by far the biggest move, the most impactful move the Pittsburgh Steelers have made all season long. Maybe the most impactful move the Steelers have made in the last 3 years. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. That's my 5. Caleb Johnson, replacing Larry Ogunjobi, extending Deshaun Elliott. I'm terrible with names today. Trading George Pickens and adding DK, and then good old Aaron Rodgers is number 1. Your thoughts on 5 biggest moves, most impactful moves the Pittsburgh Steelers have made this offseason?
Well compiled list, my friend. No doubt about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that you would have been hard-pressed to have another choice besides Aaron Rodgers as the most impactful move for the Steelers during the offseason. As begrudgingly, as I say that, it is going to be what makes or breaks the Steelers season in a lot of ways. And so bringing him in was just a organizational move that sits apart from anything they've really done over the last decade, 15 years, maybe ever. My one gripe with your list is not so much the inclusion of anything. I would agree with all 5 of those options, but Caleb Johnson at number 5, I think that's a little low.
Oh, okay.
I really do think, like, the more I see of Caleb Johnson, the closer we get to the season, the more I think about Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson as the duo in Pittsburgh, the more excited I get. And I think that, it's mostly because of the impact Caleb Johnson can bring, like how you mentioned when you were describing him as the number 5 most impactful move. So, I am very optimistic about him in the running game and what it can do in 2025. So, would have liked to have seen that be maybe a 4 or 3, but I don't know what I would be.
I was going to say, what would you change it with? Replacing Larry Ogunjobi, extending Deshaun Elliott, the wide receiver trades, or Aaron Rodgers?
I think I would have put Deshaun Elliott at 5.
Okay.
And swapped. I would have put Harmon at number 3 to replace Ogunjobi. I think that is very, very important.
Yes.
And then I think Caleb Johnson, now that I'm talking this through, would probably work best as number 4. Deshaun Elliott, it's a big move. It's a stabilizing move for the defense, as we've already discussed. But I think, he feels more like a piece of the puzzle. And I think Derek Harmon and I think Caleb Johnson have some game-breaking sort of prospect and upside that I'm hoping actually comes to fruition in 2025. So a lot of optimism in that ranking, but
no, I'm a big fan.
Just a little off the beaten path there.
I'm a big fan. I like it. To me, Caleb is such a natural fit, and I there's nobody. I'm not even exaggerating. There's nobody, Aaron Rodgers included, on the Pittsburgh Steelers I'm more excited to see this season than Caleb Johnson. Literally nobody on the entire roster. All right. With that said, that's everything on our agenda. We're going to finish off the show the same way we do every single day, and that's by answering all your questions. Make sure you toss them in the chat. I already see one that I'm pretty excited for. We'll be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold Apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. Shout out to our members. Shout out to our super chatters. If you got questions, toss them in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we possibly can. We're going to start off by saying welcome back to an old friend, Smooty Booty. Did anything crazy happen in the Steelers world while I've been gone? Jacob, were you here when Smooty left?
I don't think I was. I know I've heard tale of Smooty Booty. So if we have not been properly introduced, what's up, my friend?
This is an OG, an absolute legend of the AST chat, I guess, the All Steelers Talk chat. Smooty, I hope you're doing good, my friend. I hope you're kicking butt. We are still rooting for you. We're still having we still want to say thank you, obviously. Naval boot camp. Kicking butt. You got everybody here on your side, and it is good to see that ninja face down there. Let me tell you, it's good. Shout out, my friend. Appreciate you as always. Artisanal Bully Kennel, the name Francisco Mendoza popped up as next year's possible quarterback draft pick today. Any thoughts, concerns, opinions? This is wild, okay? This is the conversation that I had last night with my wife. Mm-hmm. We're sitting down, eating dinner. Actually, we were walking through Target last night. That's what we were doing, walking through Target. And I just looked at her because I'm a dude, and sometimes I do dude things. And I said, Detroit Lions are playing in the NFC Championship game tonight. And she goes, what are you talking about? Madden. I was talking about Madden. I'm in a franchise in Madden where the Detroit Lions were year 3 into this bad boy. Been playing it for months, and we're in the AFC Championship, and we're feeling good. Okay, led by Francisco Mendoza. That is the quarterback of the Detroit Lions. But I said that to her. I said, yeah, boy, my boy Mendoza went off in the divisional round, 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. And she's like, yeah. And I said, yeah, future quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a legit conversation that I had 24 hours ago, just about 24 hours ago. To be honest with you, I don't think Mendoza is a first round pick, but I think he's got a ton of the physical traits that you're looking for. He's kind of athletic. He's like just fast enough. He's got a pretty decent arm. He's got good accuracy. He's a tough kid. I think he's up there with the Newsomers or the Sellers or even the Drew Allers? No, but I think he's just after that in the mix somewhere. I like him. You a fan of the Francisco Mendoza? You even know who it is?
I was going to say, I won't even like front. I have no idea who that even is.
Yeah.
I'm curious and excited to watch tape on him tonight because I've been so firmly on the Lenora Sellers train for the last like month or whatever since the draft. Since the most recent draft ended. So looks like I got some homework to do after this.
Yeah, he's coming off 2 seasons, I should say. He's got just about under 5,000 yards. Last year, it was 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions through the air. He plays for Cal, so just in case you didn't know. I didn't know about him until Madden a year ago, I'd say. And ever since, that turns me on to most quarterbacks. And now we're here. So I think he's got a lot of the good traits. I don't think talent-wise he's up there with the rest of these guys yet, but I'm excited to see him in 2025. Macaroni salad here. Noah and Jacob, I know you've been wondering all day if my strategy to get my boss home early worked. Yes, it did. He left at 11 a.m. Now I'm 6 vodkas in and ready to call the AST call-in line. Unbelievable, my friend. Please do. It's Thursday, which means it's going up next Wednesday, and I'm pumped to hear what we better get a macaroni salad phone call in next week's college show. I'm just being real with you. I'm glad that it worked. Fantastic day. 6 just straight vodkas. That's what I'm taking this as. And you could correct me in the chat, but I'm not gonna check it out because in my head, this is just straight 6 vodkas on the rocks. It's 4:35 Eastern time. And I hope that you live on the West Coast. I hope it's 3:00 there and you're just having a day, my friend. That's what I'm hoping. Once again, dude, shout out to everybody. Shout out. It's a good day when Smoothie Booty returns, man. Shout out my guy. Artisanal Bully Kennel's got another one. The other day, I saw a list that had Zach Frazier rated the 3rd best center in the NFL, utilizing their stats from the previous season. Do you feel the same way about the West Virginia Wrangler? I think that Zach, it's tough to say where anybody ranks in the NFL. I don't watch enough other teams to like know where, like when Jason Kelce was there, you knew him, you know what I mean? Creed Humphrey, you obviously know he's the best center in the NFL, but you know, Tyler Lindenbaum, you watch a decent amount of him, but you watch a lot of Zach Frazier. I wouldn't argue against it. I'll say that. I think Zach Frazier is phenomenal. I think when he got hurt last season, there were some hiccups, but before that, there were no hiccups outside of the snaps, which we still don't know who that was. Besides that dude was pretty flawless for most of the season. So I would have a hard time arguing against it. Now he's got dad strength. It's over. I would love to see anybody try to get the woodworking West Virginia dad center away from Aaron Rodgers this season because it ain't going to happen. Shout out to Zach. I would say yes. I don't know about top 3, top 5 with ease, I would say. If you're Creed Humphrey, Tyler Lindenbaum, I couldn't even, who's the dude in Philadelphia that replaced Jason Kelce? He was pretty kick-ass last year. But I don't think I can name 5 centers.
Jason Kelce Jr.
Yeah, that would sit above Zach Frazier.
Yeah, I just think Zach Frazier's, I have no true sense of if he's top 5 or not, top 3, whatever we're ranking him in, but I feel like I can say pretty confidently that I think he could be the best center in the AFC North in 2025. And I think if you are the best center in the AFC North, that immediately puts you in a very elite, sort of status within NFL centers. So I expect a lot out of Zach Frazier in year 2. I expect most of those mistakes that happened rookie year to be eliminated or mostly eliminated. And I expect him to be sort of the anchor on the offensive line in 2025.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I look at Zach Frazier at like he is the next. It's weird to say Marquise Pouncey because they're so different, but he's the next long-term superstar offensive lineman of the Pittsburgh Steelers as long as he stays healthy, and I'm not even worried about it. Essential, if there's a question here, I'm going to look for it, but I'm going to try to find it. I appreciate you. Smooty Booty with an update. I graduated boot camp yesterday, by the way. We got to give a round of applause here for good old Smooty Booty, dude. Congratulations. I hope this means you'll be back full time, that we're Smooty Bootylicious from here on out. I'm pretty fired up for it. Congratulations, my friend. That's actually awesome. Like that's
incredible.
That's super cool. That's super, super cool. Shout out, my friend. I don't got anything else to say except for congratulations. Grace and the Ginger, do you see Derek Harmon impacting the defense early? Jacob, I'll let you take this one. You see good old Derek Harmon having how big of an impact in 2025?
I think we will be surprised at how quickly a rookie starts to make an impact on the Steelers defense because I think Derek Harmon is just, they don't view him as a first-year player in the NFL. I think the view of him is already so well regarded within the organization that they see him as sort of a plug-and-play type of defensive lineman immediately. So I think that could happen as soon as week 1. I don't anticipate him being the quote unquote true starter, the first defensive lineman out there alongside Cam Hayward on that first defensive snap in week 1. But I think he's going to be a heavy part of the rotation pretty early on from the get-go, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, the starter role that he's already in, he doesn't even have to earn it. Like the guy comes with so much experience and the ability to make an impact right from the jump, and the Steelers need it. So it's a combination of both opportunity that's already there and his ability on the football field. And I just think that's going to mesh so well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's what we missed from Essential earlier. Take away a quarterback. What's a position the Steelers should attack in the 2026 NFL draft? My answer is corner. I think you could go corner, have an impact corner with Joey Porter Jr., not have to worry about the position for a couple of years. I think it makes a lot of sense. Wide receiver would probably be my other one. Do you disagree? Do you have them in different order? Do you have a different position?
I think secondary in general is probably the most important position to target outside of a quarterback in 2026. I could also see the argument, especially given our conversations today, which I know we're not saying anything about TJ, not coming to an agreement. But if there is something catastrophic that happens at the edge position, I think that does sort of catapult it up very quickly to a position of need in the next year's draft. So I agree with Noah in the sense that I think cornerback is probably the most important position to target. Wide receiver as well, but I will continue to trust the Steelers' ability to find talented wide receivers outside of early in the draft. And so, yeah, I think defensive side of the ball is where it's going to land outside of quarterback, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. Lifted ones. I just want to acknowledge this one for a second because you've asked Noah, can you grab the camera for a Lamar Jackson edit? Do I just need to like actually grab the camera? Like, was that it? If that was it, I hope I helped. If it wasn't, I apologize. We'll do it again. Look at that. Smooth. All right, let's keep it trucking here. Thomas, Slick Rick is still talking about Ramsey. Sorry if we have talked about this. I just woke up in Australia. Shout out Thomas. How many defensive backs do the Ravens need to stop defense DK Metcalf? They know we don't have GP, right? Hilarious. Shout out to the good old Ravens on literally getting anybody. Like the Steelers mantra, and Mike Tomlin's, I mean, he says it all the time. Old and cheap. I'll get them when they're old and cheap. The Ravens just get everybody cheap. I don't know how they do. They just ignore the other part and they just go straight cheap. It's wild. Talking about Jalen Ramsey, I haven't been paying attention to good old Slick Rick over the last couple of days. I mean, Ramsey, your thought, your percentage chance here on a Jalen Ramsey.
7%.
Whoa. Oh, 7%. Okay.
7,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
7,
Yeah,
single
okay.
digit 7. I find it so unlikely that a Jalen Ramsey deal gets done, regardless of the world of Slick Rick that I've been introduced to. I just would be shocked. I just don't understand how it would work. We've been talking about money and salary cap and all of these and contract situations galore. I'm just not sure how that, coupled with the sort of return package you'd have to send to get him, I don't know how any of that is worth it or actually works logistically for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think it's too difficult right now to predict that it's going to happen. If it did, like, okay, crazier things have happened. You know, the DK Metcalf thing seemed unrealistic for a moment there, but it happened and it was pretty good. Jalen Ramsey in my eyes is a guy that, like, I just don't see the Steelers being able to work out, wanting to go get in the same time. Like, what are you going to get? A corner that's going to play your slot? You're going to trade a 3rd round pick for? It just doesn't seem all around to add up to what they should be doing. So I'd say no. Slick Rick might not be on to something this time. He did call Brandon Ayuk last year, and by calling Brandon Ayuk, I mean he said that the deal was in place and it was not. So maybe not always right, but shout out to Slick Rick, man. Shout out to Slick Rick and the dog. Shout out. Maddie, update. I met SZA, the sweetest person ever. Who are some celebrities you've met from working with the Steelers besides players? The only, I can't even say the only. I've met some cool ones. I'm not going to lie to you. Met Snoop Dogg. That tops the list without question. That was the coolest moment of my whole life. I was literally sitting in the cafeteria at a game. He walks in. Everybody's freaking out, staring at him. And I just go, yeah, I'm going to walk up to him because, you know, worst thing that could happen is he's going to tell some guy that he'll never remember what I look like. No thanks. And I dapped him up and he said, what's cracking? And that was it. And then I walked away and I called my dad immediately.
It's like a little sea walk as he walks away.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Snoop Dogg's up there. Wiz Khalifa's up there. Just in Pittsburgh realm. I met Mac, but that wasn't through the Steelers. Sierra, obviously met Sierra. Everybody met Sierra. Those would probably be it. I met a comedian. Oh, Cat Williams is definitely up there as well. That was
Cat Williams.
Yeah, dude. He was walking around practice one day as if Cat Williams wasn't just in practice. And I was like, this is the wildest moment ever. Like, first of all, when I saw him, he was on the practice field, like way off. So I was just like, oh, who's that small child that's hanging out with the giant baggy jeans on, you know, because Cat Williams still dresses like he's in the 90s, and I love every second of it.
And he's like, what, 5'3" on his best
maybe,
day?
Dude, with high heels on. Like, you know what I mean? The man is, and he was awesome. Tracy Morgan, I met Tracy Morgan once. They get comedians that come here all the time. So the comedians are the good ones, and then the rappers show up every now and then. So those are the ones. I'm going to say pretty good list. When I said not many, I take that back. Met some pretty cool ones now that I
This is not exclusive to anyone who's grown up or who grew up in Pittsburgh and is around, our age. But, you know, if you ever got into any bars underage, you probably met Mac Miller once or twice.
Yeah.
So like that was cool for us when we were kids. But man, that's the comedians is an impressive list. Like that's the Cat Williams stuff. Like in grade school, we used to watch his specials all the time. And then when I saw him in Atlanta, when he like did like a guest cameo in Atlanta, as like a weird uncle who owned an alligator.
Yes.
I was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Shout
Is he in more? Shout out Cat Williams, dude. Shout out Cat Williams. Yeah. The weirdest, I guess, I don't know if we would say underage bar story, but it's just it's like a college party story. Is one time I was in college partying in some house, and all of a sudden I look up, I didn't know who he was, but I'm playing beer pong against this dude who's got like a really strong accent and is ginormous. And I'm just like, who is this dude? And we start talking because we're going at it. Like I'm talking smack. You know, I'm a little drunk. We're having a good time. I don't care how big you are, dude. I'm gonna beat you in beer pong. And later found out that was Starling Marte. And he was just He was just chilling at this college party that I was at, and I was like, all right, good time. Good time.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Egyptian Roughneck here. We'll turn it away from now on. Smooty Booty, we miss you, and congrats on graduating, Noah. Look to meet. Oh, to meeting at training camp. Grandpa does not miss an episode. Shout out my friend. Shout out both you guys. Definitely. Training camp's the spot to meet up. It's like the spot of like, just yell to me. Like, you're going to see me. I'm going to be walking on the field. Just yell, Noah. I will turn around and I will come say hi. I do it all the time. So that's the spot. Shout out Smooty Booty once again. We're not going to let that one die ever. Marlon Lewis here with a couple. What's the rush? We have nothing until the end of July. If we are at July 17th and he's not signed, then we can worry. I'll say August 1st is my deadline for TJ Watt. That's not my deadline of when I expect it to happen. My deadline of, okay, there's an issue here. But if TJ shows up to training camp and then is still not signed, but he's not practicing, it's a hold in, I have no worries. I'm chilling. Like, there's honestly nothing about it that worries me at all in that situation.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything crazy different. I think I might have I might be closer to the panic button than you are right now, but not like, if the deal doesn't get done by the end of the week, I think TJ Watt's gone sort of panic. I think I feel a little bit more unsure than I did a week ago.
Yeah, I agree. We'll answer this one because this is a good one to continue with. Do you think there's ever a chance they'd let TJ walk?
Not realistically. I think that would be a wild outcome for the Steelers and for TJ Watt to walk out of the organization as a free agent and the team get nothing back for him, no other contract get done at age 31. That would be a colossal failure for the Steelers if they let him walk and get absolutely nothing for him in return, if the plan is for him to not be a Steeler after the 2025 season. I don't think that's going to happen, though. So I think, I'll throw a 13% chance on it.
I love they're good percentages. That's their professional percentages, and that's what I appreciate about them. Central, any chance Will Howard takes over quarterback 2? I don't believe so. I don't think he's going to get an opportunity to. I think Mason's locked in as the number 2. They view him as a guy that if you got a spot start 4 or 5 games, he gives you an opportunity. I think they expect Will to struggle if he has to start 4 to 5 games as a rookie. He's still a 6th round rookie. I was talking to somebody in Columbus yesterday. Columbus, Ohio State, like, they think as high of this guy as possible. And even he said, sometimes you got to be realistic that it's a 6th round pick. And I said, yes, everybody has to be realistic that it's a 6th round pick. He looks good. Doesn't mean he's going to get an opportunity, which is the biggest part. I would say no. I don't think there's any shot here.
Nah, love Will Howard, but no, he's going to sit and watch a lot of games this year.
Yeah, and he's going to learn. But I agree with you. I agree with you. Marlon Lewis, should organizations be paying for the future production or the past production in contracts? It's always the future. Always. It's what you've done that earns you the money. It's what you're going to do that makes teams give you the money. That's how you have to look at it. And in some circumstances, that works out better for the player. But this is the same argument that Deontay Johnson had couple of years ago, but he's like, you're not paying him $20 million a season. That's ridiculous. He didn't earn $20 million, but he earned 18 because he was good enough for 18 and he had the upside to do better than that. And to me, TJ Watt has earned every bit of 40. And if he's at his best, is worth $40 million. Like, that's, maybe I'm wrong there, but I just think that's market price, just like every position. DK is worth $28 million. Why? Because I don't expect him to be worth less than $28 million the next 3 years. So this year and next year, totally fine. TJ, I look at the same way as, if you're looking at TJ Watt, he's earned every penny of it. If your expectations are even slightly high on him, then he is worth projecting that money onto. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think I might have a slight disagreement with you in the sense that I think, past production at a certain level merits, more money than just, say, one good season for, like, it's a very subjective sort of situation, but like
Yeah.
someone like TJ Watt, to use just him as an example, that this man has, 5 seasons of 11 and a half, 6 seasons of 11 and a half sacks or more. The
Yeah.
low, this last season was the lowest he'd put up in a full season since he was a rookie. Every other year he'd had 13 sacks or higher. Like, so I think whenever you establish an extremely impressive resume, or seasons and history in the league like that, you are sort of paying for what that has done for you, in the same way
Yes.
that I would say, like, if I'm like a very good salesman at a company, and yeah, you're paying for me to continue doing this job, but if I was the top salesman 3 years in a row, you better take that into consideration
Yeah.
whenever you're talking about my next deal. So I think whenever you've accumulated enough worth and sort of like skills, values, whatever you want to call it, you are kind of paying for some of the past production, because I think it would be kind of irrational to say that like TJ Watt's going to have his best years, the most sacks he's ever going to record, at ages 31, 32, 33, and 34. I don't necessarily think that's a safe or logical bet, but I think he's still worth $40 million a year, or, some exorbitant amount of guaranteed money.
I agree. I definitely agree. And TJ, in my eyes, like Tone Diggs said this on the Pat McAfee show, talking to JJ Watt a couple of months ago. He said TJ's worth whatever he wants. And that's, in my eyes, that's how TJ, you want any amount of money, realistically, great. There you go. You retire a Steeler, and chances are you're doing Cam Hayward things right up until the end. And I think in my eyes, it's a pretty good spot to be.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay, Noah, how do you feel about the offensive line? Can they protect Rodgers enough this season? I'm excited for the Steelers' offensive line. My thing is this, and I preach it time and time again. The Steelers built their offensive line. It's there. It's done. You have 2 first-round picks in Broderick Jones and Troy Fautano. You have a second-round pick in Zach Frazier. You have a mid-round pick with a ton of upside in Mason McCormick. And then you have a Super Bowl veteran in Isaac Seumalo. The offensive line's built. Now it's just about, can they be good? There shouldn't have been any changes to it. I like the way that it's situated right now. This is what they've been waiting for. Is it going to be good enough? We're going to find out. We're going to find out this season. I'm not 100% sold, but I will say that there's nothing they could have or should have done about it differently than they did. This is the offensive line they should have going into 2025. And again, we'll see what happens.
For sure.
See what happens.
I think the tackle position is just the continued question that I have.
What's your belief in Broderick? You got any?
I do have belief in Broderick, but I just think the question is still looming large. I have pretty solid confidence in him, and I think that he has shown some improvements already, just in OTAs and mini camps. So I have confidence in him. I have confidence in Fautanu to be capable to live up to the hype. I just think it's hard to see the interior of the line as questionable, but it's very easy for me to look at the tackle positions and be like, well, something goes wrong, or like this doesn't go exactly how you expected. You're going to have a problem for Rodgers getting knocked down.
Yeah, I agree. Artisanal Bully Kennel will keep you posted on this one. Why would Cam be asking Antonio Brown over Twitter to let him know when he's in the States? Is it possible he returns? No. For those of you who have missed, and I don't want to dive too into it, but I'll give you a rundown of the news. For those of you who have missed it, Antonio Brown currently has a warrant out for his arrest, according to reports. Allegedly, we'll say allegedly, although I think it's real, but we'll say allegedly. Allegedly has a warrant out for his arrest for attempted murder at some boxing event, some influencers boxing event. He made a joke. So AB is not in the United States. He's, I believe, reportedly in Dubai or something while the warrant is out for his arrest. And during this, he made a joke on Twitter about Cam, calling him a fat guy or something. Cam didn't like it. Cam responded with, "Let me know when you're back in the United States," hinting at the fact that AB is a wanted man, allegedly. So that's what's going on. If for those of you who haven't seen it, it's been a good time. It's been a good time. I was walking the streets of Little Italy, actually, when that popped up on my phone, when we all got the notification of AB wanted. I was like, this is insane. And then the bartender at the restaurant that we were at we were sitting at the bar, and he goes, "What did you just say?" And I said it back to him, and he just bursted out laughing. And I was like, yeah, man, AB is a known wild man. So shout out. That's what's happening. Berg fan, you killed me this morning with the rappers, States of Water. Your wife is a goddess with those rap skills. Eminem, DMX, Nelly, NWA, and Snoop, but Lil Wayne has to be in there as well. NWA is up there. Yeah, I'm a big Nelly guy as well. I like obviously nobody doesn't like DMX. And then Snoop is a legend. Yeah, Snoop is a legend. So I'm a fan. Of the list.
It's a great list. I'm not as big on Eminem as everyone else is, apparently. Like, I don't have a problem with it. Like, my favorite Eminem stuff is from like the Chronic 2001. Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm not as into like all of his individual stuff as much.
Yeah. Look at dude.
Apologies.
You're good. You're good. If you're not gonna upset me in this conversation, chances are you're not upsetting most people. So you're good. You're okay. You're okay. Shout out. Grayson the Ginger. Early prediction for Aaron Rodgers: total yards and touchdowns. TJ sacks and Caleb Johnson rushing yards. I'll let you handle Rodgers. I'll go TJ. We'll both do Caleb. Cool. Yards and touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers.
I think we are going to see, a 29 passing touchdown season from Aaron Rodgers with about, I feel like I'm going to undersell him here, but I'm going to give him 4,100 yards.
40. Okay. How many touchdowns?
29. I think we're going to go right. We're going to touch 30. We're going to flirt with 30. But we're not going to get there. I like it. And so I think that's sort of like my over-under right now. But I think he's going to have a solid passing year. And I think, if the confidence that we have in the O-line holds up, he can do that.
He could do that. I like it. All right, TJ sacks. I'm going 18.5 on TJ sacks. I don't think it's crazy, but I definitely don't think it's last year. And if I'm a risk taker, which we all know I am, I'd go 20s. I'd go 21.5. If I'm a risk taker, which I am, but if we're going, normal, simple, 18.5. Caleb Johnson, rushing yards. You go rushing yards, I'll go rushing touchdowns.
Okay. I think 700 to 750 yards is probably where we're going to end up. I know that's not an exciting number, especially for how much, I have hyped him up, and I know how much Noah likes him as well. But I think for a rookie to come in here and to like sort of take carries away from a very, very good running back in Jaylen Warren, if he can do that and put up any sort of impactful production and yardage, I think 700 yards, 750 yards from Caleb Johnson, where you look back on after the season and we're like, that's an impressive rookie.
Yeah, it's a pretty good year. I'm going to go 7 touchdowns. I think he's got a good year, but I also think he's the power back within the 5, and the Steelers are going to utilize that to their advantage. That's going to be my one there. All right, we got a couple more to end the show here. Raymond, no, are the Steelers now the Jaguars of Ireland, meaning they are condemned to give up a home game every year to them, just like Jacksonville does to England? I don't believe so. I don't think the Steelers want to do that. If things go really well and they make a boatload of money, things are different, but we'll see what happens there. I don't think that's their plan as of right now. I also expect the NFL to continue opening up the gate and allowing everybody to go over to good old Ireland and probably most of Europe and the UK in the next couple of years. Chris, my hot take is we have our first losing season at 8-9, but we sneak into the playoffs and win a wild card game, and us Steelers fans will be satisfied with it. I'll say this from the reporter side of things, from the guy who's got to deal with the both sides of the argument and talk about it constantly. That's almost a dream scenario. Am I happy about it? No, but would it end the nightmare of 18 losing seasons and 18 winning non-losing seasons and 8 years of not winning the playoffs all in one go? Yeah. And that's, there are worse things in the world. I'll say that one on my end, not on a fan's end for sure. I think it'd be nearly impossible to make the playoffs at 8-9 in the AFC. That's where I'd be.
I would be, yeah, I'm right with you. I would be absolutely stunned if an under 500 team makes the playoffs this year. But I mean, we've seen some wild stuff, so I can't
Yeah.
say it's never going to happen. But I would be very surprised.
I agree. I think fans would be, I don't know. I think it'd be a very weird feeling. I think it'd be very, very weird. But at the end of the day, who cares if you go 8-9? If you win some playoff games, like you win the Super Bowl and you win 8-9, nobody cares that you win 8-9. They just care that you won the Super Bowl. So at the end of the day, that's where we're at. All right, and we'll finish off with this one. JT Productions. If we did end up trading for Jalen Ramsey, when do you think it would happen?
Is there any like roster bonuses, incentives, any like major markers that like I'm not aware of in Jalen's contract? Like, I don't think he's actually owed like his cap hits. I know is not that crazy for this year. It's pretty low. So like, I would imagine if all that aside, if all that is the case, I think it probably happens before August. But I think that is when I would anticipate any sort of major move. Major move meaning like any sort of like trade or big addition, something like that, to happen, over the next 6 weeks or so. Does that sound crazy to you?
Yeah, no, I think that's when I would expect it as well. I think the Steelers are going to, Jalen's a different animal because if they're going to trade for Jalen, like they don't care about seeing if Beanie Bishop's good. They're just going to go trade for Jalen Ramsey and say, awesome. So it could happen tomorrow. It wouldn't be that surprising because they'd just be like, yeah, whenever this works out, awesome. That sounds good. Like the NFL goes so silent over the next couple of weeks that I don't anticipate it happening. I think Miami's kind of quiet and dealing with their own stuff. And then when we get to the other side of July, that's when I think that it could happen if it does. I don't expect it to, but I think it's a wide range of like, it could happen tomorrow. There's a possibility. The end of June, early July, no chance. Everybody's gone. Second week of July, getting towards training camp, I think it's definitely there. Once training camp starts, I think it's strong possibility if it was to happen. Again, do I think it's gonna? No, but I would guess that would be my cycle of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Jalen Ramsey. All right. With that said, guys, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our podcasts on, anywhere you get your podcasts. I don't know what I'm all doing. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to say welcome back to Smooty Booty before we left. That's been playing in my mind the last 5 minutes here. So shout out Smooty Booty. Shout out all our super chatters and our members. Find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. And with that said, it's raining once again, but that's okay. It's Pittsburgh. It'll end in a couple of months when the snow starts. Enjoy another beautiful day in Berg. Peace.